Looe is a place which suffers from flooding now on a fairly regular basis, which is disruptive to local residents and businesses. However, with the effects of climate change, that's only going to get worse. Within the next 50 to 100 years, it's going to become really changing from inconvenient and disruptive to quite a serious issue for the town.
Looe is a wonderful place from both a landscape perspective and environmental point of view. It's a very diverse area. So if we look into the environment, we have a number of designations in close proximity. We've got an area of outstanding natural beauty, we've got nearby local wildlife sites, and we've got the East and West Looe rivers which outfall into the Looe Bay. And the bay itself is a marine conservation zone. If we delve into the marine conservation zone in more detail, that's designated for a number of purposes itself. You've got species such as giant goby, you've got stalk jellyfish, and notably a seagrass bed, which is renowned to be one of the largest in the southwest.
There's a number of different options for Looe that are being looked at as part of the project. The options range from a tidal breakwater and a floodgate, which can be opened and closed to allow access to the river, to adaptation, where the town is changed perhaps in more subtle but significant ways over a longer period of time, to still perhaps flood, but things will be moved around, measures will be taken at an individual property level, but that's at early stages and it's something that really needs to be agreed with the town going forward.
So the first thing we have to do is understand the baseline environment, and in such a diverse habitat as this, we've had to undertake a number of surveys over the last couple of years. So in the marine environment, we've undertaken phase 1 and phase 2 dive surveys on the seagrass beds. We've undertaken underwater noise modelling. We've undertaken freshwater and marine fish surveys. And in the terrestrial side, we've undertaken a number of surveys as well. And that's to understand how the terrestrial habitats and species and what they're like.
In any major scheme, be it a flood defence scheme, potentially, or any construction project, the developers are always required to look at the environmental impacts, particularly for large-scale ones potentially, and undertake what's called an environmental assessment to understand what those impacts will be and then provide mitigation measures for it.
At the moment we're supporting the outline business case by providing an environmental options appraisal. So the options appraisal will look at each of the options proposed for the Looe Flood Defence Scheme in detail, and each of the environmental specialists will assess those in an unbiased way. So for instance, we have heritage, landscape, noise, air quality. Inevitably, each scheme has different environmental impacts, and it's about getting a balance between the environment as well as the economic side and the human side, as well as engineering and making sure that it performs its function as a flood defence scheme. The outcome is dependent on the public and what their views are on developing and taking forwards. Doing nothing has its own implications of flooding, as well as impacts on the heritage and the population health elements.
Something has to be done in Looe. If you leave it completely to its own devices and allow the sea to flood Looe without doing anything, actually that has a huge cost as well, because you'll see a gradual degradation of the character. You'll have potentially erosion of some of the habitats here as well. You can't do nothing, you have to do something.